where do you start? So somebody comes to you, whether you don't know them from Adam or not, and they say, so I think we want to buy a house, but I don't know where to begin.
Whether you're not sure whether you want to buy or you're sure you want to buy, there's almost always questions.
There's nothing worse than going into a house and falling absolutely madly in love with it and being in such a quick market and wanting to put an offer in, but then not being able to because you don't have your pre-approval or any of your back-end work.
But basically what we do is we're very good at getting people ready to buy.
Welcome back to another episode of MillenniUP. So we have done episodes on, so you're under contract, now
stop.
what?
I want to stop.
No.
I want to stop. I want to go on the record to say that what was supposed to be recorded for the intro of this episode was gold. I thought it was good, and I'm disappointed. But I will get over it because we got to get through this episode. I just wanted to go on the record and say that.
Are we going to start over again?
We're not starting over again. No third time's a charm over here, Jen.
Have fun
Let's
with
get
this one,
into
Eunice.
it. Let's get into it. I've got a lot to say. You've got a lot to say. Let's do it.
All right. We've done. So you're under contract, now what? So you bought a house, now what? And when I was approached by friends of mine saying they want to buy a house, and I was telling them, all right, until we have our call, why don't you listen to some of the podcast episodes that we have? I realized we did not do, so you want to buy a house, now what? So that's what we're doing today.
That's
so
right.
you want to buy a house. If you're getting this episode or you're watching this episode, chances are it's because one of us has sent it to you because you've told us, well, I want to buy a house, but I don't know where to start.
That's right.
So Seth and I got into a disagreement before we started recording about where exactly we started.
And then we started recording and we got into a disagreement, and then
and Seth is being a little pissy pants about it. But
I'm
Seth,
not being a pissy pants.
Tell me, where do you start? So somebody comes to you, whether you don't know them from Adam or not, and they say, so I think we want to buy a house, but I don't know where to begin.
Cashier's check for $10,000, retainer. No, I'm kidding.
Only $10,000.
Yeah. Full background check. No. This is really common in our business, guys, because people sometimes aren't sure.
It's the most commonly asked question that I get. Honestly, I don't know where to start,
and which
makes me realize I can't believe we haven't done this yet.
I know. Well, we kind of jumped the shark a little bit, but I would say that the place to start is just kind of what we call a discovery call. Just to have a conversation with a real estate agent. A lot of people will say, "Hey, listen, well, let's get a call, but first, let's talk to a lender to see if." Whether you can even financially do it. I don't like doing that. I like to have a conversation. And Jen, this is where Jen disagrees with me, which I'm amazed after 3 years of.
I didn't say I disagreed. I have just had a tendency to take a different approach. But
that's fine. That's fine. So I like to have a discovery call, just like, hey, why don't we get the wife, or why don't we get the hubby on the line, just the three of us, have a conversation about what you need, what you're thinking, what you're currently going through, like where you're working, just to kind of get a baseline on like where you are in life and also the reasons to buy. Because I think that's important, because there's usually, whether you're not sure whether you want to buy or you're sure you want to buy, there's almost always questions. And I like to kind of create a venue where those questions can be asked and answered, so then we can get a plan in place. And sometimes people call me and they're like, hey, we're 3 years out, but I want to get out way ahead of it. I need to know how much money I need to put down. I need to know like kind of what's going on in the market. Like,
I wish more people I knew would do that.
I know.
I keep trying to tell people to do that for their best interest, but.
But then there's other people who said, you know what, we made a decision. We were talking to our parents, and we flipped the switch. We want to start looking. So everywhere in between. But even those two situations, everyone always has questions, and I like to just answer as many of them as I can. And then we put a plan in place, usually getting in touch with a lender. We have our proprietary SLG Buyer Questionnaire, which is awesome. And in fact, I had 3 come in last week. And it's so funny because like with first time home buyers and like upsizers, like people under 40, it's like a lot. There's so much.
I'll tell you what, I had somebody fill that out before we even got a chance to like go through it together. So they filled it out. We were going out Saturday to go see 5 properties. We stopped in the middle of it, got lunch to go and review it. Because they had talked about it, filling it out together so much through that week, we went under contract that day on something.
That's absolutely right. And that's the power of it. And those questions are worded a certain way. They're asked. There's a couple questions that are asked kind of the same, but a different way. And it's all designed to make sure that if it's a couple, that they're on the same page. And I always say, fill this thing out together. Because when I first started with the questionnaire, it was like the wife or the husband at work printing it out, filling it out, and then sending it back. I said, no, you do need to sit down and talk about these things together.
Honestly, I think couples filling that out together is more important than them going over it with me, because, I mean, listen, it is also very important to go over it with me, but I find it more valuable but from them doing it together, because they end up talking about things that they didn't even think to talk about or discuss or put weight on as far as in their search terms. So, for example, one of them we have is like, what areas, like, do you want to be in? What areas do you really not want to be? I think we have like 6 of them, and we require you to put 6 of them so that, you know, it gets you to think and actually find out, like, my partner really doesn't want to be here, but I thought it was like kind of okay. So I find more value out of people doing that together, because I can pretty much figure that out fairly quickly after we've kind of like had some discussions and gone out a bit. But I like having that as my point of reference, but it's been very useful for people to have those conversations.
Yes. And so I always kind of conceptualize this in with two puzzles. Every home purchase you have and home sale, you've got the money, and then you have like the actual house. And we handle like all the house and logistics, when you move, what you move into, the timing, all that. The financial piece is handled by our lenders.
Yes.
And so when someone says, okay, I'm thinking about buying, getting clarity on those two puzzles is key before ever going out and seeing stuff. Now, sometimes you get a call and be like, listen, we didn't know we were ready, but we want to see something. It just listed down the street. It's like, you know, you can kind of go out of order. But basically what we do is we're very good at getting people ready to buy. And if they're just kind of
There's nothing worse than going into a house and falling absolutely madly in love with it and being in such a quick market and wanting to put an offer in, but then not being able to because you don't have your pre-approval or any of your back-end work.
Or even worse, like you haven't seen enough houses to know whether it's really the one, but you know, so you get the husband or the wife who really loves it, but you know, the spouse hasn't gone into enough houses and they're not sure, they have a different personality. So I explain this in a very kind of deliberate way where it's like, you know, we're going to focus on what we can control. We can focus on the financial piece, which is just getting a pre-approval, which is like, you know, putting your income in and talking to a lender, and then also talking to us about like what you're saying from the questionnaire. It's like, where do you want to live? Like, what is most important to you? Like, do you absolutely have to have a fenced-in yard, or do you want a ranch, or do you want this, that, and the other? And is our questionnaire like 7 pages?
Yeah, no, it is.
It's pretty robust.
The whole first page is just really us getting to know you, though. So like, don't freak out. That's like a 7-page worksheet.
That's good. Like I'm meeting a new client tonight at a showing, and I know their daughter's name because they put and I know their dog's name. That's great.
And we want to know what your pets are. We want to know what alcohol of choice you love so that we can give you some gifts. Like,
So I think that it's, you know, to answer the question, if you are ready to buy, what you do next is contact a real estate agent.
So here's where I come in.
And this is where Jen disagrees.
So it's not that I disagree. It's more, okay, so let's see where you're at. Like, if I don't know you, I'm absolutely going to have a call with you, jump on, see, you know, like Seth said, what got you to come to this realization that you want to do this? What is your current situation? What's your timeline? You know, all of those fun questions. But typically whenever I'm having a conversation with somebody and the topic of, you know, wanting to move or buy a house comes up, typically, like, you know, knee-jerk reaction is to ask more questions and kind of like find out what you want to do. But to your point of, you know, you have the realtor side of like, we find out where you want to go and what you want, and the hunky-dory la la land of that is your other home.
La la land.
But it's la la land if you don't have the financial piece. So I like to do them simultaneously.
Well, I kind of do.
Okay.
Yeah, but the one has to go first. The one contact.
Okay, you're
going to
talk to me first, obviously.
Yeah, but what is the breadth of that interaction? Is it, how long is it? Like, what does it entail?
I feel like it depends on the person, depends on the situation, depends on how the conversation was brought up, what I already know, what I don't already know.
Yeah.
Like, I also am a pretty direct person, thinking that, like, and given this could be incorrect of me, but I just assume if somebody has a question, they're just going to ask me.
No.
Maybe I should not be so trusting with people asking questions, but let this just be known. I will now ask from now on. But if you have a question, just ask. That's no problem. I love questions.
So during my initial onboarding call, I probably 2 to 3 times I'll ask like any questions on anything I've gone over, any question, any dumb questions, anything. Like
No dumb questions.
no dumb questions. Like I create a safe space for people to ask questions, and also like sometimes there's a spouse who's like, well, like if we have credit card debt, is that like a deal breaker? And like,
and hubby might be like, what credit card debt?
Yeah. Or like they think, oh, honey, it's not a big of a deal. We pay it down every month. And she's like, not past 4 months, we haven't, you know? So being able to create that place of safety to have those conversations, because some people, like I said, do call and they say, we're not sure if we're ready, but we really want to.
And then that's where I go in to say, okay, so what makes you feel that you're not ready, like emotionally or financially? Because if it's emotionally, all right, I am taking the reins here. I got you covered. If it's, we're not sure if we're ready financially, again, I still ask why, but I say, okay, well, you know, best way to get somewhere is by a straight line. Then let's just go to the source who can tell you if you are or not. So that's why I always connect with the lender pretty early on, because I also want my clients to know my team and who I'm going to be working, who they're going to be working with. So if it's, oh, we don't know if we're ready financially, I say, cool, I know somebody who will be able to tell you. Let's just go straight to the source and find out.
I don't really give any choices. I always I bring them into my process.
We strong arm them.
No, but it's like, listen, you do hundreds of deals and you're like, okay, this is the, you know, tried and true process that works. Obviously, none of this is all just talk without the money. So the lender introduction is going to happen no matter what. How like murky the living situation is and what they want is going to dictate how long that first call is. Like I was on a call last week with somebody for an hour and they're a really clean file, no debt, you know, but they don't have a lot of down money. But they're also very technically minded. They had a lot of like little questions, and they were like, "Hey, my buddy just bought a house, and this is what happened to him. Is that common?" And like doing all that stuff. Because what I want to do is I want to answer kind of all these questions that I can, so then when they go over to the lender, they can focus on that, and they don't have all these things gnawing at their brain. So.
And compartmentalize the questions.
Yeah, but I literally and I do all this by G-Zoom. I do it all by Zoom because I want to see the reactions. I want to see and plus I think it's nice to have like kind of that eye contact when you're meeting someone for the first time who's going to basically navigate you to the largest, largest financial transaction of your life. I think that's the least we can do. But no, I really try to like spend a lot of time up front to make sure that everyone's comfortable with what they got. And you still have the unknowns. You still don't know when you're going to settle. You don't know what the property is going to be. You don't even know necessarily where you're going to live, what town, what county, whatever. But I think it's important to bring people into a process. And there's like this big debate in real estate right now, or at least I don't think it's a debate. It shouldn't be a debate, is whether a real estate agent having a process or not. I think sometimes
we
people
have a process.
I think sometimes people saying they have a process gets conflated into like some, you know, cookie cutter sales like process, but that's not like, there has to be guardrails. Otherwise nothing gets done. People get frustrated. Nobody gets a house, nobody sells a house, and nobody gets paid. And it's just inefficient. And when you work at a high level like we do, like to get a lot of clients into homes, like you have to, and this isn't like a real estate thing. This is just a business thing. Like
but people want guidance.
But people want guidance. But like from just running a business standpoint, like if you have a ton of clients, ton of customers, I don't care what you're doing, selling, whatever, you have to have a process in order to facilitate those goods and services. So that's what we do.
Yeah, so to answer the question, so you want to buy a house. Now what do? You talk to your real estate agent and you have that call. You then talk to their lender. And listen, I can say, you can do whatever you prefer. Listen, if you're coming into our process, please get off of Rocket Mortgage. Get off of those, get off the internet.
Disclaimer, you can use whoever you'd like.
Yes, you can. Emphasis on, welcome into my process. You can do whatever you want. However, I strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you, get off of the internet. get off of, just go look at homes on Zillow. That is a part of the process. And we've talked about that in a previous episode of kind of where the process really starts is when you're Zillow surfing. But get off those rocket mortgages, the 9-to-5s that are not going to be available when you need them.
Banks,
like
the
they just want the business. They're going to say, oh, you're approved for up to this beautiful grand amount. But like they are not factoring in your quality of life and what you actually like to spend your other money on.
The other thing too about the brick and mortar, like a credit union or anything like that, I don't want to go off on a tangent on lenders, but a lot of times like they'll give you what's called a pre-qualification, and it's based on like your bank's, like your assets at the bank, but it is not as robust as like filling out a mortgage application and getting a pre-approval, which they can do, but a lot of times you can just go into one of the branches, you sit there and say, hey, I want to get a loan, and they give you a pre-qualification.
That needs to be another episode. The difference of pre-qualification, pre-approval, and underwritten pre-approval.
It's on our list of stuff to do.
Stay tuned. That's what we're going to have another episode about. We don't want to have too many spoilers.
That's right. But I think if you're ready to buy, or you think you're ready to buy, the next call is to a real estate agent, and they will then introduce you to their team of
wizards,
of A-listers. When you try to cobble together like the title and the mortgage and everything, and again, in the state of Pennsylvania, you can use whoever you want. We can't tell you have to use, but best practices.
Thank you for keeping me out of trouble.
yeah. Best practices is that you just use the Tiger team that agent has, because the communication is streamlined. We were just talking yesterday about title, like our title company. Like we finish each other's sentences. Everybody has the same expectations.
And there goes my thought. It just went straight out the window.
Boom.
Gone.
ADD,
imploded.
right there. ADD.
Wow, look at that.
Wow.
The hell was I just about to look at it go.
There you go.
Damn it. It was really good, too.
Those are always the best ones, Jen. Those are always the best ones. But, so it sounds like you actually, our argument before we started recording.
I remember.
See what I deal with? This is ridiculous. This now you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to build it up.
Before it goes away.
I'm going to build it up. This is going to be earth-shattering. You're going to want to get a pen and a paper, people.
Oh, okay. Please do. So, all of this to say, we had another episode of things not to do yourself. And what we have just said kind of falls in line with that topic of what not to do yourself. And we talk about it in that episode. We'll put it in the show notes. Is like, don't worry about finding your own lender. Don't worry about any of it, because all you need to do is have the conversation with the agent, because then they will do everything else for you. And the agent will tell you.
A good one.
Yes. And the agent will tell you what you need to do. So we will give you marching orders, and that's to the point where there is no second guessing of like, well, is this something I should do? Should I schedule a showing? Should I contact the lender? Should I reach out to it? Like, we got it. You're good. And if you're not sure of who is, that just ask. If you have somebody that you love that you really want to be able to use, talk to us, no problem. We'll be open to it. But isn't that the greatest thing? It just like went right outside. It came right back in and right straight back into my brain. Can't wait till I'm medication again.
I can't wait to medication. All right, that sounds good. If you are listening to this episode and you've already contacted us, then you know what we're talking about. If not, and you're listening to this episode, we are always open to having that conversation with anybody out there who's not even sure. And again, I work with people 2-3 years out. In fact, those are like some of my favorite people, because they are when they are ready, they are ready. They go out and they know exactly what they're looking for.
I just had this conversation on Saturday night too with a friend of mine who said like he's going to want to buy a house. And we've had this conversation quite a few times, but he just signed or is getting ready to sign his 1-year lease again. But he intends for this to be the last time that he signs his lease. And I'm like, yeah, it's no problem. I said, listen, because you already know that you're going to want to buy a house, that is why I'm saying you should just connect with the lender just to like find out. Because he's like, well, I'll like, down the line find out kind of like what I can really do. And I was like, I have the answer key for you. I said, this isn't pressure. This isn't like, he's not going to strong arm you and like harass this one, our lender that we choose, any lender we choose to work with. They're not going to harass you. They're not going to like push you to like go out before you're ready. Nobody in our process is going to be trying to tell you like, you need to go out like right now and like, and and be pushy. But it's literally just like I say these things in a pushy way to help you, because guess what? You are just signed your lease for the last time, which is a year from now, but it's not really a year from now because you need to give yourself time to move out. You need to give yourself time to look. You need to give yourself time to roll the process. Like, you want to give yourself maybe like a month or two at the most last minute to move out of your rental into your new home. So you're already at like 10 months. And then you've got about 30 days that you're minimum that you're under contract. So there's 9 months. Then you need to, that's saying that you go under contract on the first house that you see, and you're already like 9 months out. So you need to give yourself time to find out what you do and don't want. It's kind of like what I say for college. Like, you really go to college, find out what you don't want to do for community college, in my opinion. So you got to find out what you think you like and then find out what you actually like. Give that about like 2 months or so. So now you're at 7 months. And then you need to work on getting pre-approved and start your process. Let's give it like a month. So now you're at 6 months. So your year that you have is actually kind of shortened. And then what happens, and that's assuming that when you talk to the lender that your file is pristine, your credit is perfect, you have all of the money that you need. But let's find out that like your credit just needs like a little bit of work, but it's going to take, like 2 months of proving something or paying something off for it to go up. Okay, now you just bumped yourself back to 4 months. So it's all these little things. Like, as soon as you know you're going to do it, that's when to reach out. So if you want to buy a house, but you still don't think you're going to do it for a year or two, first thing you do, talk to an agent. And I know that our list has only been 2 items, and it's talk to an agent, talk to a lender, period. The end. Have a great day. But that's because everything else will just take off from there.
Yeah,
that's what everything gets.
It's kind of like that simple. You don't have to talk to inspectors or title or do anything else. It's really getting those 2 puzzles kind of clarified. And then you go from there. And then we just, we either go right out and look for something or we wait. And I always tell people, if they're going to sign another year lease, 3 months after they sign that lease is the latest they should talk to me.
Yeah, that puts us to about where I just said.
And just so we can establish a baseline, work on any credit, make sure we got the savings. And then actually, before they even sign that lease, I ask, like, do you have an ability to save money while you are leasing this property? Mm-hmm. Because it's disappointing when somebody sits there and they sign a new lease and then they're all excited because they like say, oh, this is the last lease I'm ever going to sign. And then they don't have enough money or they didn't understand what closing costs were and all that.
It's also good to know if you have the option to go month to month after that lease, just in case. I just like to cover all the bases.
We should do a whole episode on leases and the mechanisms within a lease and the things you should, and also this timeline. Because it's important, because we've had people all over the map. We had someone who signed an 18-month lease and month 1, they was like, oh, we want to buy a house, and they were able to get out of it.
We had clients that we have already interviewed.
And then I had people like, oh, I want to buy a house, and I have 60 days notice. I got my 60 days notice, and I just gave my 60 days notice, so I got to I got to find something. I'm like, okay, well, we can do that, but you're going to have a lot less control over the situation. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I hope you guys find this helpful. I think that I think Jen's point's valid, though, that it really is just as simple as these 2 pieces of the puzzle. And then after that, that's...
You will know after that.
Yeah, you will know after that, for sure.
All right. So if you have any more questions, if you want to talk more about the process of buying a house, where you need to start, if you want to start, when you want to start, just reach out.
Yep.
Comment, call, text, email, Instagram.
Smoke signals.
Carrier pigeon. All right. But till next time.
See you guys.